Good morning, everyone. And happy Sunday, happy Read Across America Day, happy Women's History Month, happy Generosity Sunday. And if there's one thing that I'm learning from the past 2 months, is if you get a chance to say happy connected to anything, you should milk it. So with that, again, let's have a happy, happy Sunday. And again, good morning and welcome to our worship service here at Central Unitarian Church. My name is Delores Connors and I serve as the board president. I am also a worship associate and most importantly, I'm a proud congregant of this beautiful church. I was invited here to this church about 18 years ago through the invitation of Miss Lacey. She and I worked together, and she heard that I was looking for a church home, so she invited me. And one thing I will say in connection, just a little short story. As a result of coming here, my son grew up in RE. My son is now 27, and when he was about 9, we went to Barnes & Noble. And in Barnes & Noble, he says, they stole my idea. And I go, what? He said, they stole my idea. And he goes, look, that book. And I read the title, and it said, the most important people in history in the United States, the 10 most important people. And he goes, I was going to write that book and put Miss Lacey on the cover. And when he said that, I thought immediately, this is a smart kid, and I don't care what your standardized test says, SAT score. I will remember this statement and know you're pretty smart. So I bring that up to also share with you that it is Women's History Month. And as if there at any point has been a woman that has touched your life in some way, if they are around, you get to say thank you. If they're not, you get to say a prayer and say thank you. But what I'm asking you to do is to recognize them and say thank you. So with that, again, 18 years ago when I came into this building, I heard these words that CUC was an inclusive community of all ages which embraces diversity and identity, expression, and spiritual belief. We gather each Sunday morning to worship to find inspiration, hope, and renewal among this community of like-hearted individuals. If you are visiting with us in person, please be sure to say hello to our welcome hosts, Carol and Linda. And if you're visiting us online, please be sure to click the link provided in the chat and sign our guest book by providing us with your name and contact information. We invite you to stay after service for coffee, conversation, and connection in this same space. As we prepare to begin our service this morning, we also ask those in person to please silence your electronic devices. And we also have a few announcements. It is also this Wednesday coming up will be a delicious soup lunch hosted with Reverend Mark. So if you were here last week, you know what to expect. Something special, yummy, and warm. So you are invited. On March 11th, the iftar, there will be an iftar dinner that we are all invited to. If you look at our newsletter, you will see some information about that. It's held by Peace Island, so we really are excited about that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it is Generosity Sunday. And so we are really, really happy. And I will just give you a heads up that there will be a commercial or commercials that will happen throughout this service. So some stars that you may recognize will show up, but we welcome you. And with that, all of that, I ask that you now just warmly welcome your neighbor. Thank you.
You met me at the door.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you're new and we haven't met before, I'm the Reverend Mark Cutolo, and today's opening words are from the 6th chapter of the Song of Solomon. Who is this whose glance is like the dawn? She is beautiful and bright, as dazzling as the sun or the moon. I have come down among the almond trees to see the young plants in the valley, to see the new leaves on the vines and the blossoms on the pomegranate trees. I am trembling. You have made me as eager for love as a chariot driver is for battle. And now those who are gathered here in person, I invite you to rise as you're able for our opening hymn.
And so now I ask that you say these words with me as we light our chalice. Thank you. We light this chalice to remind us of our dreams, to nourish our heart, mind, and spirit, to work towards a better world for all, to embrace the whole of our human experience, to honor our past and our gifts of the present, to create a community where each of us may find healing, transformation, and hope. All right. So, as I said, it's Generosity Sunday. And I'd actually like to start with this. You may know it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. All right, that's enough. We remember, right? But I bring it up because in my 12 years of public education, I had to recite that. And I'm assuming that some of you may have went to public school as well to recite it so strongly. Now, in my 12 years of doing that, not once did anyone ever explain to me why I was pledging. They never explained or expressed the importance of what those words meant. So it just became routine. And that's how they did it, and still do it, I will tell you, in public schools. But this is CUC. And here, if we're pledging, we're not going to leave you hanging with the why and the how. And so with that, we have a few people to come up. We'd like to invite Randy to share a little bit. Thank you.
Good morning. So my husband, Michael, and I have been attending service here at CUC for almost 25 years. I know that sounds like a long time, but when I look out and see some of the very dedicated and longtime members here, I still feel like a newcomer. So why do I keep coming? And more importantly, why do I continue to pledge? First of all, I knew after attending services at the UU Church in Westport and growing up going to the Baptist church when I was a little kid that pledging was encouraged and expected. I was very glad to know that it wasn't 10%. And I knew that I found out that each congregation is responsible for itself. There's no parish, there's no larger entity that's going to come in and take care of what we do and how we do it. It's up to us. So early on in our time at CUC, we had a mission weekend where we had an outside facilitator come in and help us understand what a mission statement was and help us craft it. Out of that Friday night, it was a Friday night and an all-day Saturday retreat, this became our mission statement. We welcome all into a home of spiritual diversity that challenges us to become our best selves, minister to one another in love, and serve the greater community. I am so glad that we have that as part of our service every Sunday to remind us. And that's what keeps me coming back, either in person or remotely, and keeps me giving and pledging. In my opinion, having a home where you can have faith, be respected, heard, and feel safe has never been more important. As a community, we may not look alike, think alike, love alike, but we can learn from each other and help each other have hope, understanding, support, and love. And that's why I give.
Thank you, Randy, for those words. I really appreciate it. And so, at this time, we recognize that we are not alone in this work. Our lives are built on shared communities, giving and receiving together. Our congregation serves as a place where we intentionally practice this shared living. Interdependence is a culture that overemphasizes independence. One of the ways we practice our interdependence is through our congregation's finances, which depends on the generous contributions of members and friends. We pause each week to recognize this particular time for sharing, each of us giving what we can and to support our mission here at CUC. Your financial contribution helps us every way to grow and to serve, and most importantly, to live our lives centered in love. Our offering will now be greatly received. So I ask that you join me in saying our dedication words based on our CUC's mission statement. We dedicate these gifts in service of our mission to welcome all into a home of spiritual diversity that challenges us to become our best selves, to minister to know and love, and to serve the greater community.
We now pause to take a moment to share our joys and sorrows. We do this each week as a way of caring for one another. We invite you to share the joys and sorrows you hold in your heart today. If you're online, you may do so by entering that information in the chat box. Those of you here in person may have already lit a candle and submitted a joy or sorrow, which I will read. We'll also offer a moment for those here to share out loud the names of those you are holding in your heart today. So let us quiet ourselves in order to enter that holy space of listening and of breathing in a breath of life and of breathing out a breath of peace. We hold these cares, joys, and concerns in our hearts, as well as the ones that remain unspoken. And now, will you please join me in a moment of prayer? Earth Mother, Star Mother, you who are called by 1,000 names, may all remember we are cells in your body and dance together. You are the grain and the loaf that sustains us each day. And as you are patient with our struggles to learn, so shall we be patient with ourselves and each other. We are radiant light and sacred dark, the balance. You are the embrace that heartens and the freedom beyond fear. Within you we are born, we grow, live, and die. You bring us around the circle to rebirth. Within us you dance forever. And together let the church say, Amen. And now those who are gathered here in person, I invite you to stand as you're able for our second hymn.
Okay, getting back to thinking about generosity. Well, we didn't come up with the word generosity. The origins of the word come from Latin, and it has to do with family and clan. In the 1600s, the word generosity would have to do with nobles, of being better than being bitter. That's the way. And in our modern day generosity, it means to give of your heart, to give of your time. And we are going to ask Jeff in Pam's spirit to come on up and share a little bit about generosity here.
So it was a late call to the bullpen today. But they say when you're with someone so long, you begin to look like each other anyway. So I don't know how much I look like Pam, but so why do we give to CUC? We give for many reasons, but first and foremost, we give because selfishly, it makes us feel good. But seriously, by giving to CUC, we feel we are supporting our community and all of the good things CUC stands for. Pam has been a member since the 1990s, and I have been a member since 2011, I believe. And I have to say that one of the greatest gifts Pam has given me was bringing me here, because it's added so much to my life. So why do we pledge to CUC? We pledge to CUC so we can continue to support our mission, and we personally can continue to surround ourselves with caring, loving, and positive people who are intentional in living shared values of growth, compassion, and support for one another. We pledge because this is the place we can come to be spiritually fed and to be reminded of the greater good. For us, the bottom line is that by giving to CUC, we receive so much more than we give.
Thank you. And so we have a special reading today. And I mentioned to Reverend Mark, I'm not really familiar with this text at all, nor the author. And he said, I don't think anyone will be. So you may be surprised. The title is The Lady of Mourning by an ancient Mesopotamian priestess and author, Induhana, from her hymn dedicated to the goddess Ina, personified as the morning star. Honored counselor, ornament of heaven, joy of God above. When swept sleep we ended in the bench chamber, you appear like bright daylight. When all the lands and the people of Sumer assemble, those sleeping on the roofs and those sleeping by the walls, when they sing your praises, bring their concerns to you, you study their words. You render cruel judgment against the evildoer. You destroy the wicked. You look with kindly eyes on the straightforward. You give that one your blessing. My lady looks in sweet wonder from heaven. The people of Sumer parade before the holy Ina. Ina, the lady of the morning, is radiant. I sing your praises, holy Ina. The lady of the morning is a radiant on the horizon. And that's a very old text, but very interesting. And so now I'm going to get back into thinking about giving. And I had a friend who's a head of a nonprofit, and she's trying to raise money, is what nonprofits do, for her work. And she said, one thing changed. She was struggling with it, and she said, one thing changed that I did, and it made a big difference. And she was doing her funding drive. She said, I made a statement that said, give what you can. And she said it made all the difference in the world, that people weren't pressed to give one particular amount and feel like they couldn't, so they didn't. But they just said, she just put it out there, give what you can. So I like how Randy brought that to us, and Jeff also. And now I'm going to ask for Rudy to come up and share a little bit about giving. Thank you.
Could have done this on a laptop or a PC, but paper is the best thing. Good morning, anyway. My name is Rudy Jager, and I'm a member of the CUC Board of Trustees, and I've been asked to share my story and then tell you why I'm passionate about this Unitarian church. First, I was raised as an evangelical Lutheran, where I was baptized by a German-speaking pastor, I attended Lutheran summer camp with deaconesses, participated in confirmation, and joined a Lutheran youth group. These experiences provided me a pretty strong foundation in Christianity. Then, at the age of 18, I had a transformative experience at a summer job. I met young people at the Rockland County UU Fellowship, and they introduced me to Unitarian Universalist values. I was struck by how inclusive and how global these values were, and I realized that Unitarian Universalism resonated with me much more deeply than my Lutheran upbringing. I was drawn to the liberal and joyful spirit of the UU community, and I felt a strong connection to the people I met. I wondered how I could be part of this inclusive group through membership. I had to belong. Over the next decade, my new wife and I, Beth, seated here, embarked on a journey to join societies, UU societies in Albany, New York, Baltimore, Maryland, Medfield, and Dedham, Massachusetts. As a member of the various UU churches, I learned that membership comes with responsibility. It requires time, service, and financial contributions. These are the 3 coins in the membership fountain. When Beth and I, along with our children, moved from Boston to Westwood in 1979, we joined our next UU church in Paramus. We were delighted to find friends who shared our feelings and values. We felt a sense of belonging and a connection with your fellowship. In life, things change. Sometime after we arrived, I left one relationship and found another. My new life partner, Sue Ulick, and I were married in the Fairhaven, Massachusetts Unitarian Church by the first minister that we met in Massachusetts years before. Then 36 happy years passed in what seemed like a moment of time. With advancing age, Sue had a stroke during surgery 2 years ago and passed away six months later. To stay active and avoid sadness, I attended meetings in Westwood, and to my surprise, CUC appeared at a zoning board meeting. You were relocating to Westwood, and I could be among you once more. To be a church member, I need to share my blessings, not just count them. I am here speaking with you today for that reason. I continue my participation by sharing my time, giving my money, and showing my enthusiasm. I encourage you to do the same. And I regret my time away from you, but detours are like that, forks in the road. And as Yogi Berra said, when you come to one, take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. Communication is a very important component of the human experience. Even here in this time that we have together, a central component of our service features me communicating with you verbally about a topic of religious, spiritual, or ethical significance. It's amazing to consider all of the ways that we can communicate with one another, both verbally and non-verbally. We use spoken language to communicate in the forms of storytelling, conversations, speeches, debates, and yes, even sermons. We use written language to communicate in the forms of letters, books, magazines, emails, weblogs, text messages, social media, and print media. There are also numerous nonverbal forms of communication that we use too. Our body language, in the form of body posture, facial gestures, and expressions, can say as much as verbal language can. Eye contact and tone of voice can communicate volumes too. In so many ways, the history of communication itself is the history of humanity. The first humans emerged 2 million years ago, and the first Homo sapiens, the species we belong to, evolved about 300,000 years ago. Spoken language, though, came about anywhere from 50 to 150,000 years ago. It's hard to be more precise than that since spoken language is impossible to verify in any fossil record. Prior to the development of spoken language, it's quite likely that humans communicated nonverbally through hand gestures. Once spoken languages developed, it would be quite a while before written languages would develop, basically until the development of human civilizations. The earliest evidence of human writing goes back to around the year 3200 BCE in both ancient Mesopotamia, which is now modern-day Iraq, as well as in ancient Egypt. The Mesopotamians developed cuneiform writing, and the Egyptians developed hieroglyphics. The earliest forms of writing had emerged as a way to record transactions, to manage trade, and to document laws, which is to say that a lot of the earliest writings that archaeologists have found are basically various forms of ancient receipts. It would be some time before written language evolved into what we now recognize as literature, history, and philosophy. Most of the writings we have from the 3rd and 4th millennia before the Common Era were written by people whose identities have been lost to time and who remain anonymous. Having said that, if one were to ask most people who the first known author was, many might suggest someone like Homer, or Confucius, or the authors of the Hebrew Bible. While all of these would be good guesses, the truth is that the world's first author, or known author, is someone who most people likely never heard of before today, but whose legacy is absolutely worth celebrating. The world's first known author was a 4,000-year-old Mesopotamian priestess named Enheduanna. Born in about 2285 BCE, her father was Sargon the Great, who was the first emperor of the Akkadian Empire, an empire which historians say was the first recorded empire in history. The capital of that empire, Akkad, is likely to have been along the banks of the Tigris River, a little north of what is now present-day Baghdad. As with all empires since, the Akkadians sought to expand their territory, and Sargon conquered the land to the south, the land of the people known as the Sumerians, another ancient civilization which had emerged during the early Bronze Age. One key difference between the Akkadians and the Sumerians is that while the Akkadians were a people who spoke a Semitic language, closely related to modern Hebrew and Arabic, the Sumerians did not speak a Semitic language, and theirs was a language which has no known relatives, and their people's origins remain a mystery. Enheduanna's name is from the ancient Sumerian language and means high priestess, ornament of heaven. She received this name when she was appointed by her father the king as the high priestess of the moon god in the Sumerian city of Ur, which is located in southern Mesopotamia, and which was also the hometown of the biblical patriarch Abraham. Though, if he were to be a historical person, he would have lived several centuries later, probably around 1500 BCE. Since Enheduanna was the daughter of the Akkadian king Sargon, she exercised a considerable amount of religious, political, and economic influence. By appointing his daughter to the position of the high priestess of the main Sumerian temple in Ur, Sargon's theopolitical move was intended to lead to the synchronization of the mythology and religious practices of the Sumerians and Akkadians, in a way not too dissimilar to how centuries later, many of the ancient Greek myths and deities would be appropriated by the Romans with only slight variations. Considering that she lived in the 23rd century before the Common Era, which is further back in time before the birth of Christ than we live after the birth of Christ, it's amazing that we know as much as we do about this person, including what she looked like. And so, Phil, would you please show on the screen the image? In this image that we're looking at, and you can at home look at it maybe on your own computer if you want to see more closely, you see 4 figures in an open-air temple with a multi-story edifice on the left-hand side. Enheduanna is in the center of the disc, the second person from the left, and she is depicted slightly larger than her attendants on either side in order to reflect her status. The 2 priests behind her carry ritual paraphernalia, and the priest in front of her pours a libation on an altar. We see that Enheduanna is depicted wearing a tiered, flounced robe and a headdress in a round shape of a wreath, which became the standard dress for the priestesses who succeeded her. Her hand gesture is meant to sanction the ritual that's taking place. Her face is gazing upwards, away from the mortal world of earth, to the heavenly realm of the goddess, who is known to the Sumerians as Inanna, and who is known to the Akkadians as Ishtar, who also was known to the Greeks as Aphrodite and to the Romans as Venus. Considering that no works of literature to that point was attributed to any author, and considering that most written works that we have from that era simply consist of receipts from trading exchanges, Enheduanna's poems and hymns are also notable because she introduces herself by name in her compositions, and even included salient autobiographical details in several of her poems. Her expressive voice, as conveyed in some of the ancient readings we've already heard this morning, had a lasting impact in ancient Mesopotamia, since her writings continued to be copied in scribal schools for centuries after her passing. And it was through her writings that ancient scribes learned how to write in the cuneiform script. Her poetry and compositions were notable for reflecting her deep and faithful devotion to the goddess. All of Enheduanna's literary works were written in the Sumerian language, despite her own Akkadian origins, which may have been meant to reinforce the efforts of her father, King Sargon, to unify ancient Mesopotamia. These texts include 3 well-known narrative poems which are dedicated to Inanna. In 2 of these poems, The Exaltation of Inanna and A Hymn to Inanna, Enheduanna introduces herself by name. A 3rd poem, titled Inanna and Abi, is ascribed to her due to its style and content. She also compiled an anthology of 42 short temple hymns that were used in the worship in 36 different Mesopotamian sanctuaries. These hymns had the effect of unifying the religious landscape by associating the southern sanctuaries in ancient Sumer with those in the Akkadian north, which was in line with the broader political objectives of the king. In her masterpiece, The Exaltation of Inanna, Enheduanna makes not only a powerful statement in praise to the goddess, it also contains rare autobiographical references to the author's life as a high priestess. The poem begins with elaborate praise of Inanna's unyielding strength and a summary of the severe consequences that await those who defy her. After that, Enheduanna makes an accusation against a man named Lugalane of attempting to forcefully remove her from office by stealing her special headdress and giving her a knife in order to encourage her to commit suicide. Her vivid allusions to sexual harassment at work was a first for world literature. Lugalane was also most likely an actual historically attested king of the city of Ur, who had previously led an unsuccessful revolt against the new Akkadian king, who was Enheduanna's nephew. In the poem, Enheduanna turns to Inanna for help, especially since the moon god, who she also serves, seems to be indifferent to her prayers. Happily, according to the poem, Inanna accepts Enheduanna's prayers and she is restored to office. Here's a quote of an excerpt from the poem. Quote, I am Enheduanna. Let me speak to you my prayer. My tears flowing like some sweet intoxicant. O holy Inanna, may I let you have your way? I would have you judge the case. That man, Lugalane, has defiled the rites decreed by holy heaven. He has robbed the God of heaven of his very temple. He honors not the greatest God of all, the abode that the king of the gods himself could not exhaust its charms, its beauty infinite. He has turned that temple into a house of ill repute. Forcing his way in as if he were an equal, he dared approach me in his lust. When Lugalane stood paramount, he expelled me from the temple. He made me fly out the window like a swallow. I had my taste of life. He made me walk a land of thorns. He took away the noble diadem of my holy office. He gave me a dagger. This is just right for you, he said. O precious, precious queen, beloved of heaven, your sublime will prevails. Let it be for my restoration. Show that you stand high as heaven. Show that you reach wide as the world. Show that you destroy all unruly lands. Show that you raise your voice to foreign countries. Show that you smash head after head. Show that you feed on kill like a lion. Show that your eyes are furious. Show that your stare is full of rage. Show that your eyes gleam and glitter. Show that you are unyielding, that you persevere. Show that you stand paramount. For if the moon god said nothing, he meant, do as you will. The almighty queen who presides over the priestly congregation, she accepted her prayer. Inanna's sublime will was for her restoration. It was a sweet moment for Inanna. She was arrayed in her finest. She was beautiful beyond compare. She was lovely as a moonbeam streaming down. The moon god stepped forward to admire her. Her divine mother, Ningal, joined him with her blessing. The very doorway gave its greeting too. What she commanded for her consecrated woman prevailed. To you, who can destroy countries, whose cosmic powers are bestowed by heaven, to my queen arrayed in beauty, to Inanna be praise, end quote. Some scholars have noted that Enheduanna's description of her suffering of injustice, her cries to the divine, and her belief that her pain and suffering mattered to the divine are also reminiscent of the writing in the biblical book of Job. The ways that she portrays divine judgment is bold and reminiscent of the fiercest of the biblical prophets, like the prophet Amos. Because of the richness of the themes in her poetry, besides its antiquity, the exaltation of Inanna was just added 2 years ago to the well-known core curriculum for first-year students at Columbia University. For us contemporary UUs, living so many centuries and millennia later, what significance, if any, does Enheduanna and her writings have for us? First, as Americans, I think it's significant to note that the world's first known author was a woman from the area now known as Iraq. Our country has been entangled in Iraq's affairs, both at the end of the last century and the beginning of this century, especially due to the Iraq War, which only ended in 2011, and which resulted in the fatalities of 4,600 American troops, 3,650 contractors, 45,000 members of the Iraqi military and police, 35,000 insurgents, and an estimated 200,000 Iraqi civilians, all due to the misguided belief that the sands of Iraq were hiding non-existent weapons of mass destruction. Second, Enheduanna's works center on the goddess Inanna, portraying her as a complex deity who evokes devotion in her followers. And Hedewana's praises for Inanna came to influence other Semitic religious texts. For example, the verse from the Song of Solomon, which I read as our call to worship, which says, "Who is this whose glance is like the dawn? She is beautiful and bright, as dazzling as the sun or the moon." That verse, in the context of the text, is said by a young man who is in love with a young woman. However, scholars believe that this verse is actually taken from a text in honor of the goddess Inanna. For liberal religious people like us today, who embrace an inclusive and evolving theology, Hedewana's celebration of the divine feminine can inspire a broader view of the sacred beyond patriarchal traditions. Third, Hedewana's poetry and hymns reflect deeply personal religious experiences, including struggles, doubts, and moments of transcendence. This resonates with our UU values, which honor individual spiritual journeys and direct encounters with the divine. And lastly, Hedewona experienced exile and wrote about the political and religious upheavals of her time. Her ability to reclaim her role as a priestess through poetic expressions aligns with themes of justice, tenacity, and resilience. Our own UU tradition emphasizes the importance of justice, and Hedewana's story serves as a reminder of the power of words in confronting oppression. As an author, Hedewona described herself as the mother in relation to her poetry, which she described this way, quote, "I have given birth, O exalted lady, to this song for you. That which I recited to you at midnight, may the singer repeat it to you at noon," end quote. Like Hedewona 4,000 years ago, who used her creative talent to create timeless poems of praise to her beautifully arrayed queen of her heart, may we as people who embrace life always sing songs of praise and gratitude for the life that we have been given at midnight and at noon.
Thank you, Reverend Mark. Thank you, Matt. So before we extinguish the chalice, I'd like to say something else in regards to pledging and giving. It's nice to be inside of a space, and it's nice to be able to read what's going to happen on our program. It's nice to be able to be at home and to listen to the service if you can't make it. It's nice to listen to beautiful music. It's nice. And even though that is all wonderful things and it's nice, and this is a church, those things still cost money. And that's the reality. But it's different than just costing money or just paying something. Because a few months ago, Brooke received an email from the town letting us know that we were going to be taxed. And for us, for some of us really, it was a surprise because we're a church, and it just seemed like a surprise. But we were definitely going to pay our taxes because what it said to the town of Westwood and what it says when we pledge is that we are vested in this space. You see, the town of Westwood has a public school, they have a police, they have roads that are pretty nice, they have a community. And it just doesn't just come together because it's here. People have to vest in that. So I am asking you, and I have to say this, your generosity to be of service in this church, I am grateful for that. So many people show up here and give of themselves. And to that is priceless. But the other part counts too, and that's what brought us to today. So I would like to extinguish the chalice and ask you to join me in doing that. So we extinguish this chalice flame, but not our promise to each other, to act with grace, to hold each other in love, to serve this community and our world. This promise of the heart serves as a reminder of how we live together. May it bring joy to our collective lives. All right, the commercials we're not done. We have one more. And so with this person coming up next, when all that giving happens, we have to know what to do with it and how to do it. And there's one person who understands all of that. And I'm very proud to work with her on the board. Janice has a way of talking about numbers that my father would say, keep it plain, keep it straight, and she does that. So I'm going to ask Janice to come up and share a few words with us.
Good morning. I have to say my brain is just humming with so many things I heard today. First of all, I really like what Randy had to say about the 10% thing. As treasurer, I understand how that works so well for Joel Olstein. However, that's not necessarily what works here. So in light of what Delores said, please give what you can. We have so many exciting things going on. It has been, I never expected to be treasurer, really, but it has been scary, exciting, interesting. I have learned so much, and it's just really been a great experience. But the way we're going to do this today, Jeff and I will be here with our computers. I'm not quite sure where, but we'll pick a chair somewhere, I guess. And please come up and let us know what your pledge is. We've already got some pledges in, so we're starting at this point with 30,000. And our overall goal is 140. So we have just a little way to go. So come on up, just tell us, you can just say it's going to be the same, or you could change it as you need to. And I'm going to try to get into the system this year earlier and make sure that we don't run into all of these issues like we always do about my pledge didn't get pulled for the last 2 months and yada, yada, yada. So, we're going to try to do a better job with that. And again, so just come on up and let us know where you stand, okay? Thank you so much for everything you've done so far. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice. And now those who are gathered here, I invite you to rise as you're able to sing our final hymn, number 327.
Join us,
Our closing words are an excerpt by Enheduanna from her masterpiece, The Exaltation of Inanna. I have given birth, O exalted lady, to this song for you. That which I recited to you at midnight, may the singer repeat it to you at noon. That you are as lofty as heaven, let it be known. That you are as wide as the earth, let it be known. That you are victorious, let it be known. O my lady, beloved of heaven, to my lady enfolded in beauty, praise to Inanna.
So I do have one housekeeping announcement to make, and that is in regards to our parking situation. We're going to ask that if you're able, that you park at the lower level because some of our senior congregants are having trouble with being able to park and come up. So we ask that you honor that. And if at any point a senior has trouble, if you pull up to the door and just let one of us know, we will make sure that your car is parked. But we're all going to try to just support that. And I just wanted to put that out there. So let's have a wonderful coffee hour hosted by the Steward Committee. And thank you for service today.